On Tuesday, February 25th, decided to do something a little crazy, and we told our friendship story. So we have this thing in our town. It's called Tales at the Tap House. Really cool event. It's a storytelling event where people will come and share their tale to a group of strangers. And so for February, their theme is how we met. Each month has a theme. And so we decided, as much as we love a romantic story, we decided to tell everybody how we became best friends. Originally, one of us was going to tell the story and the other one was going to listen to the audience. That's typically how these go. One person tells the tale. Usually there's never two people to do it. But we both wanted to tell the story. In order to have your story selected, you need to email the people who are in charge of the event about your story, what you might say, and then they tell you whether or not you're selected as a speaker. There's about 4 speakers a night. It's only in a small cafe. It's, we're not talking anything huge here, but. And so, of course, the day, a week or 2 before this event, I saw it and it says how we met, and I thought that was so cool, and so I had the idea. I was like, I'm gonna message Tasha and say, hey, I really want to do this thing. I want to talk at this event. I want to tell our friendship story. I know it's not really the whole February is supposed to be Valentine's Day and romantic and those kind of stories, but I thought this story I feel like friendship is something that more people should hear about and talk about. And so, I don't know, I went on a limb, messaged her, and I was like, hey, I think it would be really cool if we, told our friendship story together. She deadass texted me back saying I already submitted a request to do it. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess we're the same person. So that's how we end up doing it together. Today we are going to be and explaining kind of what each of our parts meant and what we meant behind the words that we said. Because the two of us wanted to do it, and we both have very busy lives. I was in the middle of a play, and Tasha was leading this huge event. This is one of the busiest months of our life before, everything happened with this pandemic, right? You couldn't imagine now how crazy our lives would have been a month ago, considering where we are now. Not the point. So, we were like, we really want to do this, but does it make more sense to just have maybe Tasha explain the story since she already submitted the story? And I had just brought up the idea to her, but she already had submitted the response to the prompt. Would that have been better, saved us some time, whatever? And so the day of, somewhere early in the morning, I think it was 7 or 8 in the morning, I messaged Tasha. I had this idea. I think I called her from the shower. I called her from the shower. And I was like, listen, I know we haven't got this together, but I really want to come up with something and just perform it together tonight. And she was like, I'll let her talk about it, but she was basically like, dude, what? No, it's tonight. And so I was like, just trust me. I just think it'll be so much better if we both talk about each other. We wrote this in a day. I was at work, she was at work, and we had a Google Doc open, and we just both threw our parts of the story in. So she'd write a paragraph, I'd write a paragraph, I'd comment on something she wrote, vice versa, until we had something by 6 o'clock, and then I think the event was at 6:30, and so we practiced it twice, and then performed it in front of at least 50 people. So today we're going to be reacting to this video, kind of explaining what we were talking about.
We wrote pretty much the whole thing the day of, after lots of back and forth and lots of me freaking out and being anxious about not the speaking portion, but just sharing what for me at least was a pretty vulnerable story. There's a lot of things that I talk about in this story for the first time with strangers. things I hadn't like shared with anyone. So, yeah. There is some irony in the fact that I'm standing here tonight on the tap side telling a story that started over there. Before breakfast beers and that fancy new door were a thing, I had my first ever Cold Creek coffee date at the rickiest, most Sharpie table I'd ever seen. I still thought I hated coffee, but I showed up because I had this really big crush on this older guy in my history class. And I got so nervous when he asked me to join his group project team for the semester that I spilled the entirety of my first French press, like, all over the place. It was really bad. After dozens more coffee dates, we found ourselves headlining a research symposium with a documentary about the experiences of students of color at UW, which we called The Black West. Making the film was my very first experience with storytelling. My own story, the story of others, the story of this place. And I had never felt so seen or understood in all of my identities. I loved every minute of making it and was so inspired and full of creativity that I was completely fine with the fact that I thought nobody, other than my professor, would ever see it.
Wow. Okay, so I'm sitting in a cultural diversity in America class, and I'm one of the only people of color, and we're about to watch this film called The Black West. And oh my fuck, just kill me now. I really don't want to have to speak on behalf of my race and explain how these students in the film saying these things I think about daily, but hey, okay, wait, that girl is really dope. Okay, I'm actually into this film. Holy shit, that was really good. I wish I could meet that girl and like talk to her about all of this because she really gets it.
Filming The Black West was its own whole crazy creative adventure with some of my very best friends. But as crazy as making it was, the reaction that we had to the film after was just really surreal. I was honest when I said I never thought anybody else would see it, and it was by like the next academic year that after that research symposium, academic departments were like asking us for copies of the film to show in their classes. It got added to syllabi. We were asked to do a whole bunch of trainings on microaggressions and just the experiences of students of color on our campus. And it just kind of blew up on our campus and in the community in a way that I really hadn't anticipated. And what's just crazy, I think, about that is, I mean, Olivia wouldn't have come to campus for, I don't know, another year and a half or 2 years after we made that film. And so it's, I think it's always interesting to talk with her about the different ways we experienced the same campus, just with starting at slightly different times. And it's pretty incredible for me to imagine like what it would have been like to sit in a class where that film was already made versus being in the class where we felt compelled to make something like that. So I just think it's a kind of a unique and cool connection in our friendship, that like something I randomly kind of created out of my own struggles with race on campus became something that like connected us in some complicated way.
Really gets it.
I had just returned to Laramie after a semester off of school. 12 credits were all that stood between me and my diploma. Jaded and living alone for the first time, I spent the first days of the Trump administration stumbling with my attorney and a handful of other women through my own wretched Title IX investigation at the university. Unless you're a woman of color that has experienced sexual assault, you can't know the great cast, the duality of oppression hangs over every aspect of your life. Even months later, even years later. The activist community I was a part of, that he was a part of, didn't get why outspoken student organizer, natural hair me, was suddenly doing everything I possibly could to retreat and make myself completely invisible. I almost didn't go to the event.
Hi, sorry. My name is Olivia. You're Tasha, right? Crazy to run into you here at this event. I saw you in this film we watched in my class the other day, The Black West. You've heard of it, right? right. So I really resonated with what you said in the film, and your shirt was really cool, and I was just wondering if we could be friends. Me, a sophomore. I think I just scared the living shit out of her.
That whole section was one of the hardest, I think, things I've ever shared, like while public speaking, and that's kind of crazy to say because I talk about race all the time, and I used to teach sex ed, which is like its own special, I don't know, cluster of mess when you're talking about it. But yeah, that was like the first time ever in a public sort of space that I talked about in my experience, I guess, with sexual assault. And I think it's particularly challenging because I, like, the activist community that I almost, like, called out in that part of our story was the activist community that would have been there at that event that night. And that's it was just a challenging thing to say. And at the same time, like, I struggled with whether or not to talk about that or to include it in my portion of the performance. But I think it was really important because I think, like, the foundation of the time that Olivia and I kind of became friends, I was so wrapped up in all of that. And so to act like it didn't happen or to act like it wasn't a major component of how I was showing up in spaces with people and kind of how I was navigating through life would have just, it would make the story untrue. Yeah.
Olivia was the first bit of sunshine I got to see at 7,220 feet. Bubbly and hopeful, she defied everything I had decided was true about Laramie, Wyoming, and me. Overwhelmed by all of her mixed girl magic, sparkling ENFJ Leo energy there on the stairs in front of the Union, I immediately decided she was too bright. Maybe a little naive. Sorry. And certainly too damn happy for a girl as sad and angry at everyone and everything as I was. I remember leaving her there, all glow and gumption, with a Facebook friend request and the hollowest "let's get coffee sometime" in my life. Despite the fact that extrovert to a fault me still said hi to her on campus, still got the coffee, still snapped some pictures together at protests later in the semester, I decided with every lying "sorry I can't make it" that friendship wasn't a real possibility.
I don't think she likes me. I can't really tell. Maybe I'll ask her to coffee again. I'd really love to chat about so many things.
A good portion of the next year passed by in a flurry of empty Facebook likes, messages, and comments as I ran away to Oregon and Olivia ventured abroad. Shortly after, the wild tornado invited everyone in Laramie to run outside and look up at the sky. We ran into each other at a random barbecue of a mutual acquaintance neither of us really knew. Between shitty boyfriends and chronic illness, the chorus of "we should get coffee" continued, punctuated only by the occasional lunch date, broken promises to meet at Half Acre and at home Cody, and accidental spotting of one another in the Union. As sad and angry at everyone and everything as I was.
So that whole section, it's interesting because I've written about that moment multiple times. So I have 2 additional poems that I wrote about meeting Olivia. And I think the most interesting part of that line where I say everything that was true about Laramie and Wyoming and me was so I don't know, it just is so true. I had never had a friend that was biracial and from Wyoming and at the same time interested in all the same things I was. She just showed up almost like a mirror of a slightly littler me, And I just remember being so challenged by that when I met her, because I was in such a like rough place that it was hard to, it was like really hard to wrestle with the fact that like someone kind of like me could be happy, or could be all of this like bubbly stuff that she was, even though I think so much of that like is me too. At the time it was just so bizarre. So yeah, when I've written about that moment in other settings, like I've talked a lot about like mirrors, and how much of our friendship feels like that to me, like a reflection of my own self, which is the same but also, you know, inverted. Yeah.
I remember leaving.
I moved on, and so did time. But eventually things started to fall into place in mysterious ways. It began with running into each other on campus when she started to work at the university. It began with accidental matching outfits and celebrating holidays like May Day. Wait, is May Day a thing? Has anyone actually heard of this fucking holiday?
Yeah.
Hold on, can I just take a moment to say that yes, I am a shitty friend for running to the plant store immediately after you had presented me a gift on May Day, because I didn't know that May Day was a holiday, so I felt guilty, so I bought you this damn succulent that you would kill a month later and hid from me, hoping I'd never ask about it. How do you kill a succulent, Tasha? How? Anyway.
So listen, May Day is the best holiday on the entire planet. I've celebrated it my entire life. My mom was a florist. My kind of like pseudo grandparents came from like a German background and celebrated May Day every year. And so I go hard for May Day. If you are at all important in my life, you know that about me. I talk about it quite a bit, and it's like the biggest celebration. Maybe I like my birthday better than May Day. That's the only thing. But like every other holiday just pales in comparison. So yeah.
Maybe we met when I called you every day on my first solo trip around the world, you learning about who I was miles and miles away. Maybe it was when you did my hair for my last sorority formal, or when we went day drinking on the 4th of July in our hometown to escape the reality of racist neighbors and sang Old Town Road at least 50 times. Well, I'm gonna take my horse to Old Town Road. Honestly, guys, there's no other song that really captures what it means to be black in Wyoming.
To be honest, I'm not sure I really met this incredible sister of mine until a few weeks ago. Oh. Let me scroll on my Google Doc. After more than 3 years of this push-pull, healing, hurting, loving, ghosting nonsense, an unexpected trip to my old hometown, complete with 99-cent margaritas and step-family bullshit, broke me open in a way I'd never experienced before. The end of my grandfather's hospice stay made us overnight guests in the bedroom of a high school friend's rambunctious toddler. Ever grieving 20-somethings, we woke up hungover in flannel Spider-Man sheets, still wearing our ugly Christmas sweaters. The long list of missed calls from my various family members affirmed the news we've been waiting the last few days to hear. I felt like I was in a satire-filled indie comedy when, without missing a beat, sweet, kind, generous, caring Liv stumbled frizzy-haired over plastic toys and balloons into the Jack and Jill bathroom.
I look like death.
She announced loudly in front of the mirror before emerging a few seconds later, indeed looking like death, to say,
Fuck, dude. I'm such a dick. I'm so sorry.
I just laughed and laughed and laughed. Because I knew without a doubt that she was just trying to pull herself together so she could help me pack my bag and do a last-minute walk through the entire place to make sure I hadn't forgotten anything. I knew she was going to drive me all 7 hours home without complaining when I cried or didn't talk for miles. I knew she'd have the perfect playlist, a teeny bit of gossip, several random facts about politics, jokes about our temporary black cards, a sci-fi theory to share. Liv, for better or worse, has always insisted on meeting me exactly where I'm at. With grace, understanding, and a raunchy sense of humor, she's been a constant light through my hardest moments and deepest insecurities. She's taught me so much about so many things. Seriously, the Try Guys, like every episode. Border politics, and the fact that Prague will probably be the prettiest city I ever see. But the most important thing I've learned from her is that our best stories come from spilling coffee, shitty verdicts, and screwing up. And that best friendships come from showing up with every ounce of awkward chatterbox your kindergarten teacher tried to time out with you. Every bit of code switching, confusion, showing up with every heartbreak and saying hello to life and love anyway.
Like the overall message, what like this challenge that we have, and that like I hope to be better at in the future, and like even when we're really struggling, to still be like open to things that are positive. And I think in so many ways, like this section of our friendship story, which is gonna be longer because I don't plan on getting rid of Olivia anytime soon, but like at least this like beginning part is, I guess part of it is a little bit bittersweet in so many ways. There's been so many things that have like been bittersweet in I think this friendship, but to know now what I, as far as like how great Olivia is and how strong I think our friendship is, to know that that's something like I kind of missed out on in a time when she was really trying, is a hard thing to like know about somebody that you love a lot, and it's hard to have to be fine with the fact that there may be this element of lost time, and I think that that's something Olivia mentioned too about joining Tri Delta this year, which was a really big decision for me. I kind of feel the same way about that, and that I wish that it could have made sense sooner than it did, but it didn't make sense until right now. And if that's how it had to be, then I guess it's okay. But like the bittersweet thing is still for sure there. It's hard to wrestle with what it means to have been, really struggling and going through hard things and just being in that period of waiting. And I wish I could have like told younger me kind of in both scenarios, like, if you just hang in there, it's gonna be fine, because it's so hard when you look back on how much hurt and stuff was in those times. But turned out okay. I feel pretty lucky, I think, and proud of us both for pulling off this random thing that we did in like 24 hours. Definitely, something I really like about the performance overall is I think there are parts of my story that sound really sad, because they are, but it's so cool to see the ways that like both of us were experiencing the same time period, and I think that really comes across well in the performance, and was something that we got really good feedback on from audience members, like being able to kind of connect to both stories, and the fact that while it's the same story, it was also lived out really differently for both of us during that time. And I'm excited to see how we continue to make more creative stuff together, because I think we have like kind of an interesting dynamic between the two of us for sure.